Welcome, it's Denome, and welcome to this crypto update. Now, today is a juicy update because we have new companies buying Bitcoin. There was the Bitcoin 2025 conference where a lot of new announcements have been made regarding Bitcoin as well. JD Vance was speaking there, for example. And then, obviously, when you look at the chart here, you can already see it, but Bitcoin actually fell below this yellow line here. So I will give you my technical analysis at the end of the video, but I will say this at the beginning of the video already, that even though we are below here, we just tagged the first liquidation zone. There are a couple of zones left, but there's a lot of reasons to be bullish, and in the long term I am still bullish even though we have had this temporary drawdown. But all in all, before I get started with the biggest news, let me share you guys or remind you guys this. So on Phemex.com, when you sign up using my affiliate link, you can get up to $4,800 in welcome rewards. There's no KYC when you get started, and the fees are extremely low on this exchange, and you can do pretty much everything you want on Phemex.com. So it's one of the best ones out there. Now that's the promotion out of the way, and now let's get to the biggest piece of news, which is coming from Donald Trump once again. So Trump media has raised $2.5 billion to adopt the Bitcoin treasury strategy. And this is massive because, as you know, Trump loves to make money, and he is an insider in the government. And when he is buying Bitcoin at the top of the market, he knows something that we don't. He is an insider and he wants to front run the market. So what I bet is that the United States government will start buying Bitcoin quite soon after they are done buying Bitcoin themselves first. So how this actually went out is that they issued new stocks of the DJT, and 50 institutional investors chipped in and gave $1.5 billion to the Trump Media and Technology Group. And then they also issued $1 billion of convertible notes. And these deals closed on May 29th, or was expected to close. I'm not 100% sure if it closed yet. But what this means is that all of this $2.5 billion, that is future demand for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin has not been bought yet, unless obviously they are buying today. But all in all, this is bullish, even though this news basically was the top of the market in the local sense. But all in all, in fundamental sense, I do believe that Bitcoin will be heading much higher than where we are right now. And also, one thing worth mentioning here as well is that crypto.com will be providing custody for that Bitcoin holdings, like I already showed in the past. But this might be good for you guys who are holding CRO or are considering getting the crypto.com debit cards. By the way, use my link in the description for that as well if you want to get the beautiful cards from them. Then China has announced a massive rate cuts and also a $52 billion liquidity injection into the markets, obviously as a response to the tariffs to stimulate the economy and to keep up with their 5% annual growth plan. So all this is creating obviously inflation, and that is most likely good for asset prices, just like Bitcoin. So that is good news for us. Then there was a funny situation where the court system in the United States basically threw a stick for the tariff system, for the tariffs that Trump has implemented, and now Trump appealed those decisions, and the appeals have gone through. So the tariffs are still in place, and they now have basically the backing of the US court system. This is not really, it's basically a nothing burger, but I just wanted to highlight that this situation has been resolved. And then Pakistan has announced a strategic Bitcoin reserve as well. And there's some additional information here when you read the news about it. So they are producing energy in their country, and they will be allocating 2,000 megawatts of excess energy to Bitcoin mining and high performance computing data centers. And Binance co-founder CG is also basically helping them in doing so. So that is obviously good, but it's a little bit funny because Pakistan probably is hosting terrorists in the country. So this is not the best look for Bitcoin and crypto adoption, obviously, but it is what it is. They are buying Bitcoin, so that is most likely bullish as well. And basically craving caving the path forward for other countries to also join in on the action. Then US Securities and Exchange Commission has decided to dismiss lawsuit against Binance. Again, good news for us. And then this was a good insight from Simon Dixon, and I wanted to highlight it in this video. So there was the conference at the Bitcoin 2025, and basically most of the speeches here,
Stablecoins.
they are talking about stable coins, they are talking about the ETFs. So they want you to buy Bitcoin through custody services, and they want to generate money using your Bitcoin on their balance sheets. So if you simply do the opposite, you will probably be fine. So self-custody Bitcoin and don't give it to these lending platforms or ETFs or anyone else. Because what you have to understand is that the Bitcoin conference has become not a place for decentralization and all these things. It's a place for companies to promote their services. So you basically have to read through the bullshit that is now being broadcasted through the Bitcoin conferences. But I think that was a good insight from Simon. Then GameStop has went ahead and bought 4,710 Bitcoin. Obviously good news, and GameStop most likely will be pumping very hard in the stock, even though after announcing that there were some disputes if that was actually a good idea, if they are doing a good plan with the Bitcoin strategic reserve, or if they are structuring it in a bad way, because I saw some people talking shit about it, but I haven't looked into it closely. All I know is that they bought 4,700 Bitcoin. Now, after the announcement, you can see the stock fell roughly 17%, 18% to the downside already. But I believe that GameStop will have another rally because it is still heavily shorted. Those shorts never really closed, so eventually it will rip higher once again. But the whole stock market is pretty manipulated, so hard to tell exactly when it will blow to the upside. But anyway, they bought Bitcoin. And then European soccer giant, I don't know about giant, but Paris Saint-Germain has announced that they adopted a Bitcoin treasury reserve. Now, I have to mention that this is not exactly new news, because when you read the actual news here, you can see that they actually uh, uh, they that they are the first club to allocate part of its fiat reserves into Bitcoin the previous year. So they actually went and bought Bitcoin already in 2024. So this is not exactly new, and they already converted their some of their fiat reserves into Bitcoin. So this is not future demand; it is basically past demand. But at least they mentioned that as of now, they still haven't sold anything. And they are actually quite small when we look at the market cap. The market cap of PSG is actually sorry, I'm talking nonsense here. The PSG fan token is the market cap is only $24 million. Previously, I thought that that was the market cap of the um, um, football club. So sorry about talking nonsense there. But anyway, they used part of their capital to buy Bitcoin. And I don't know how much Bitcoin they have as of now. The news don't really share it here. But what I do know is that 80% of their fan base is under 34 years old, basically the perfect demographic for Bitcoin adoption. And they have 550 million supporters supposedly worldwide. So maybe some of these people go ahead and decide that, hey, maybe I will do what my football club is doing and buy Bitcoin as well, because most likely they will be talking Bitcoin in the future as well. Not that these football people really care about Bitcoin, but maybe some people will go ahead and buy Bitcoin. So there's that. Then El Salvador, there was an agreement with El Salvador and IMF that that as part of their new agreement, El Salvador will no longer buy more Bitcoin, and they will get a loan from the IMF. But they got the loan and they're still buying Bitcoin basically every single day. So that is pretty funny. So I guess they will just continue buying Bitcoin as well. And then Cantor Fitzgerald, I showed you this news already in the past, but now it basically has come to a reality. So that they have announced a $2 billion Bitcoin-backed lending service. So that is quite cool. Then one more thing that I do want to mention is this is not exactly regarding the Bitcoin or crypto, but I just find it interesting that United States is now blocking people from going into United States if they speak ill of Israel. So basically, if you acknowledge that there is a genocide going on in Gaza, then you are actually not allowed to go in the United States. And my question is, who are the baddies? Because from my perspective, Trump is doing a lot of good things, but on some fronts, he's absolutely doing disgusting things, and this is just one of those things. And I don't know what else to say about it, but it is annoying. I can't really do anything about it, so I just wanted to throw it out there. Then let's talk about fundamentals and short-term analysis. And first, I want to talk about ETF inflows. So ETF inflows, we finally saw some outflows, $360 million, and that was a significant chunk of sell pressure. I showed you that most likely we will see this at some point, and now we have seen some ETF holders actually sell Bitcoin once again. So that is nice. A small breather is obviously good to see. Now we will see if this trend will continue or not. I would expect that we will see we will see some bullish action on Bitcoin in the short term. But I will show you the analysis, technical analysis very soon. But then when we look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map and we go and take a look at the 1 month view, you can see that the first liquidation hotspot has now been basically tagged all the way down to $104,000. The next liquidation zone would be here at roughly 100K to 99K. So that would be the next place that would be really nice if Bitcoin went there. And then we have another hotspot here, basically below 90K. But at least according to this dashboard, it seems like people have been closing their longs because the hot zone is not as big as it was in the past here, but it is still there. So that is obviously my golden zone if Bitcoin would ever go to these prices once again. Now, I don't think we have any juice left to go below that. And when we look at the CME gaps, the lowest CME gap is $91,500. So that would be really nice if we would go and tag that at some point. Going into sentiment.net, we are still seeing more Bitcoin actually leaving exchanges. And let me just refresh this to see the new numbers. You can see just a massive amount of Bitcoin has left exchanges. So even though we're seeing this small drawdown in price, even more Bitcoin is leaving exchanges, which is again, in my opinion, a bullish thing. And the supply of Bitcoin on exchange reserves has now dipped below the number 7%. So there will be a supply shock coming, and Bitcoin will most likely shoot to the moon in the coming months. The market cap of stablecoins unfortunately has gone down a little bit, so that's that. And when we look at the old Bitcoin if being moved, we saw the peak here at 28th of May, and we saw about 33,000 Bitcoin being moved. 45,000 Bitcoin being moved on May 27th. So that was the peak, and now those movements have slowed down, obviously. Now, taking all of this information into consideration, and we look at the price of Bitcoin. Here's my analysis. Now, we hit the first liquidation zone. So I do believe that Bitcoin has a chance to go basically tag this high here once again. That is an option. There is another option, which is that we have a small bounce here. We don't go as high, and maybe we even stay below this trend line here. Sorry, this trend line here. So that would be basically my first bet, is that Bitcoin goes here about 108k, and from there we go and tag the second liquidation zone. If we do that, and obviously it's a big if because everything is pretty bullish, but it just makes sense that we have small pullbacks. If we do that, then we would have my favorite trading pattern on the chart once again, which would be inverse head and shoulders. Here would be the left shoulder, the head, and then the right shoulder, and then we can bump to the moon. Now, if we have the bounce there, that is fine. But even if Bitcoin goes to that 90k level and we tag all of those liquidation zones and we tag the CME gaps and all these things, this is still the inverse head and shoulders. And just from a technical perspective, if we go to these lows, that would be very good. So we can basically get all of the big money back in the on the saddle of the horse. And then because we have the technical pattern to also support the price move, then it can be very, very bullish to go to the upside. So this is basically my wet dream, that we go to either this low or this low before we really release the beast of Bitcoin onto the planet for the next leg to the upside. So that is basically my short-term analysis. But also one thing to note here is that when we look at on the daily time frame, we look at the RSI. You can see right now that the RSI is coming almost to this low here. And like I showed you in the previous update, I would like Bitcoin to go to these lows, and from there we basically can go back to the upside. We haven't gone to that low yet, but it would be nice if basically Bitcoin has that retracement to that 50 level, because in the past when we had a similar situation, for example here, what Bitcoin did is it went to this, the RSI went to 70 level, then the RSI went to 70 level again, and then it went to this 50 level here. And from the 50 level, it shot to the upside here. And that gave us this move on the Bitcoin price. So that's why I would not be surprised that Bitcoin goes to this 50 level on the RSI, but from there, I think it will go to the upside. So most likely what I'm currently expecting is that Bitcoin goes to 108k, then we tag that second liquidation zone. I'm not sure if Bitcoin has the firepower to go to this 90k anymore. But because once we are here at roughly 99k, 100k, I believe that the RSI will already be hitting this area here, and it would really like to bounce from there already. So for that reason, I'm not betting that we go to that 90k level. I'm just showing you that it is a possibility. But even if Bitcoin goes to 100k or anywhere near there, that is already seems to be the perfect area for a very, very solid bounce. We would get the inverse head and shoulders pattern. We get the bounce from this RSI trend line here. And all in all, it would be good times for everybody. But like I said, we are seeing so much Bitcoin adoption on the institutional front, and the retail investors are still completely out of the market, that this market still has much more upside from my opinion. Now, that is basically everything I had for you guys in this update here. Hope you got value out of it. Remember to use my affiliate links. And if you are thinking of starting your bot trading career, watch my bot video from a couple of days back as well. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you and bye-bye.